with the community. Before that, though, I was pleasantly surprised. On Thursday, I was attempting to sit one of my favorite places on the planet, on the Spanish Steps. You can't sit on the Spanish Steps anymore, but having been whistled at by the police lady and told to move on, I saw the lady next to me had a newspaper which had the headline, Fusión Freda, and I thought, fantastic, amazing. We finally had the recognition that we deserve. So I invested a very large sum of 1.5 euros and bought the one and only copy of La Repubblica that I will ever buy. Sitting peacefully over a bottle of red wine, I transliterated this painfully, word by words, to find out.
It was another kind of fusion.
To find out what it was about. Clearly it's not about us, but the sub-editor that chose that headline had a high degree of freedom as to what headline they put up. So I can't help but believe that this was intended as a positive jolt to the cold fusion community. That is what I choose to believe. Our field faces two major problems that are significantly impeding our progress. The first problem is old age, and I don't need to explain to this group, that really is a problem. I put this wall of, retired heroes up to remind me of two things, however. There are worse things than old age. And every one of these gentlemen on this wall here, Bockers, Case, Fleischmann, Ariani, Tobit, Chubb, and Arata, produced their genius level ideas at an age greater than the age that I'm presently at. So there is hope for me. But old age brings with it some concomitant consequences which I'm becoming increasingly familiar with. There's a shortage of fresh ideas, a tendency to repetitive actions. And I watched some research groups that I was very close to simply fall into the trap of doing the same thing over and over and over again. It's also a failure to act. I see Microsoft has done its little thing and put a face where it shouldn't be. But there are a number of things, and I'm talking about me now, there are a number of things that I thought to do, experiments that I wanted to perform, that I never got around to performing. Other metals, alloys, higher temperatures, and it is essentially pointless to produce heat at 30 degrees centigrade. We did almost all of our experiments at 30 degrees centigrade. There's no market for heat at 30 degrees centigrade. 300 degrees would be a very, very reasonable number. In fact, probably the optimal. But very, very few experiments have been performed in that temperature regime. Other electrochemical nodes. I'm an electrochemist. Fleischmann was an electrochemist. Martin Fleischmann, in fact, invented the electrochemical fluidized bed. Fluidized bed of palladium particles or alloy particles would be a highly plausible system in which to generate excess heat. Martin actually had an experiment which he set up. Mel Miles ran it once in Japan. And nobody else has touched it since. I worked on this. The topic of my postdoctoral work in Southampton was electrochemical fluidized beds and packed beds. I understand the systems very well. I understand their power and relevance to this field, and I've yet never done such an experiment. In old age, we also tend to fail in adoption of modern methods, and we we clearly need to enlist young people to, help us as we dodder along. The second problem we have, and this is a strong and serious comment, we communicate poorly. We communicate poorly inside the community, and much, much worse, we communicate poorly outside the community, as the recent Google exercise evidences. Oops, wrong way. So I would some power the gifty years to see ourselves as other seers, it would from money of Londa Frias and foolish notion. Robert Burns on seeing a louse in a lady's bonnet. We need to see ourselves as others see us. This community is quite closed. We all know each other. We communicate with sort of an inside jargon, but this room is filled with wonderful people who've done wonderful things, but the people that matter, the people that we need to communicate to, are outside of this room. So we should really think about how we communicate our successes outside this community. Thinking of the recent Google exercise, and I'm going to point to a representative of that exercise in the front here. Our field was recently joined by a new group of people. Able and intelligent people. I knew essentially all of them, very well motivated, hand-picked from relevant disciplines, selected from good institutions at almost the highest level. If you choose from the very highest level, then academic ego becomes a problem. So you really want the next tier and to do actual work. These people are young, they have fresh ideas, young enough to be uncontaminated by the stigma that was very effectively imposed in 1989 and 1990. My view is that any scientist under 45 you can communicate to. The scientists that were active and lived through the drama of the Fleischmann Ponds announcement, March 23rd, 1989, their opinions are rigid. Very, very few of them can be persuaded, and I don't even try. The effort was well planned, well guided, well backed, and funded with essentially unlimited money. And the biggest problem that Google faces, they make $2.2 billion of profit every month. The disposing of that money wisely is obviously a headache, not one I've ever had to deal with, but it's clearly a headache. And this is a strategic effort, strategically planned and ongoing. So the Google mirror, what happened? What should we see reflected in the Google mirror? Revisiting the case of cold fusion, and one of the authors of this paper is sitting in the front row, second row here. What the Google team wrote, something like 12 publications, and what was written about them, another dozen or so publications, is highly reflective of how the well-disposed fraction of the outside community sees us. People that are not well-disposed, people that are still contaminated by the drama of 1989, there's no interest in communicating with those people. The well-disposed people are telling us how they see us, what they have learned from us, and it would be very foolish to avoid learning the lesson, to see ourselves as others see us. The Google, I was part of the activity in 2015. I can assure you that the Google team did not listen. They listened keenly. What happened is we did not effectively communicate. I'm not going to name names or point fingers, but the effort was a genuine attempt to learn, and we didn't effectively communicate. It's not their fault, it's our fault. In 1920, at ICCF 21 in Port Collins, I said the words in blue and annoyed some people and some people that are in this room today. But I very much believe it, and I'll restate it today perhaps more precisely. This field lacks a clearly and fully specified written protocol to reproduce even semi-reliably, and I would accept half the time, any aspect of our claims for cold fusion or condensed matter nuclear effects of any sort. We do not have a piece of paper which can be taken away and followed, and if followed by one of normal skill in the art, would produce the result, a nuclear effect, tritium, helium-3, helium-4 in non-natural ratios, excess heat at the watt level for hours, something that is clear and unmistakable. We don't have such a procedure. If we did have such a procedure, we would be vastly ahead of where we presently are. We would not have, the problem we would have would be quite different. It's just the fact that we do not have such a procedure, cannot make a procedure available to others, such as the team that Matt Trepithick put together at Google. If we give them a procedure that they would follow, they would run with it. They would very quickly lead us. We would be following, trailing behind and despairing that we can't keep up. But we don't have such a procedure. I was asked by staff at Infinite Energy to write a critique of the Google work. And I led with the phrase, "God bless Google." Now, I've never said that before. Never even thought that before. May never say it again unless it happens that we can give Google this procedure and that they take the lead in this activity. The four things that I called out as being conspicuously noteworthy were the vision and action. And Google had decided, in its semi-infinite wisdom, that the solution to mankind's future energy problems cannot be found in the renewable energy sources that we are presently building up. Windmills, photovoltaics, whatever. Renewables will not solve man's energy problem. What is needed is for a primary energy source that is reliable, safe, cheap. And only two things, in my view, are capable of meeting that criteria. Google's vision is a little broader, and in Google's mind, hot fusion, conventional fission, and cold fusion might solve that problem. I don't think hot fusion will ever be economic in that scheme. So I see only two ways forward. Either advanced fission systems, fourth generation, possibly thorium systems, that can solve the problem. It has some attendant risk. The other thing that can solve the problem is cold fusion. And what Google did is acted on this vision. They set up a program, put $10 million into it, put a team together, and set out to see if cold fusion could actually do the job. And the question is still open. It's still under investigation. Second thing that Google did was publish in Nature. Now, those of you who remember 1989 will, and the furor that associated with the initial announcement will remember and understand how significant it is to get a publication in Nature of any sort, other than condemnatory. And on the 30th anniversary, more or less, it was really a wonderful achievement. confirmation of the loading ratio that was first noted. I mean, you need a loading ratio, or to achieve at some point a loading ratio of 0.85 in the DPD system. But the thing that I really pointed out was the fact that Google had pulled together a team of young people who had become interested and remain interested in pursuing this field. And they, in fact, have possibly saved us from inevitable demise. I have two quotes here, both quoting me, of course. One by